Listen, so many great things about today's day and age, but there's my blowjob skills don't get me anywhere now, and that's why I'm salty. That's my complaint. Blake and I have the same taste in men. This is so exciting. Sam Hunt, Diplo.
Ryan Reynolds.
Oh my God.
You just have to throw in Tupac because Blake has been on a Tupac kick. And for the last 2 weeks, he's talking to me about Tupac every day. And we're eating breakfast. And he's like, did you know Tupac did so-and-so and so-and-so? And he did all of this and made so much history. And he was only 23. And I'm like, holy shit, if I have to hear one more thing about Tupac, I'm going to murder him.
But that would make me, I would feel so insecure. This is where we differ, because I would hear that and I'd be like, he did it all by 23?
Yeah.
I'm 10 years older almost. I haven't done anything. I haven't done shit.
In today's day and age, yeah, but back then, like even when we grew up, we had such a linear path. I feel like you go to school, you do this, because we didn't have social media at this scale for all the comparison. Totally. We had just our immediate bubbles for comparison. And now you see the younger generation that's just graduating like, oh, the world is so big. I have so many options that I'm almost, paralyzed because of all the options. I could go to Italy if I wanted. I could do this. I could just stay here and do the path that I thought I was going to. But now that I see the rest of the world and what's available to me, I feel like it's almost just compressing.
Endless.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people are just more stuck than I've ever seen them.
Of course. It's what there's like a term for it. And I know nothing about psychology, even though I pretend to. What is the term where it's like decision fatigue? You know what I'm talking about? Decision fatigue or something?
Analysis paralysis.
Analysis paralysis. Sure.
I don't think that's a scientific term, but for sure, that's what it is. When you have so many options, same thing with like Netflix. You're like, oh my God, there's nothing to watch. There's everything to watch. Yeah. But you have so many options. Same thing with Cheesecake Factory, right? There's just like, it's a book of a menu. It's a Bible. How do you pick?
We go from life to Cheesecake Factory. Honestly, it makes sense.
Too many options.
That's so true. Do you feel like you struggle with that, or are you like over that hump?
I used to, but also I felt like I always kind of knew the next path, or I was always at least trying something at the time. So it was never like so many options, because I feel like it was like from college to The Voice. So that was like my only option. And then it was like I was stuck in this fake record deal. That was my only option. Then it was bankrupt. You don't have a lot of options then. So then it was always kind of, here's the next step. There was definitely a period where I was writing a book, and then I was pursuing a music career. Then I was making videos, and then I was selling phone cases from Alibaba and flipping them, drop shipping all at the same time. What? And a mentor of mine was like, too many options.
Yeah.
You will be so good if you just pick one, maybe even two of these things, and just go all in on those for a year and watch how your life changes. And he was right.
I hear that advice from literally every single video that I see on the internet, because there's some divine intervention happening on my For You page where it's like, you need this. But I do feel like, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a new thing with technology in the world, or if it's always been in me. But I almost need to always be juggling like 6 balls at a time in order to feel sane. Mm-hmm. I feel insane, but I also get really anxious only focusing on one thing. I feel, maybe what it boils down to is if I have all my eggs in one basket,
and it doesn't work,
so much to lose. Mm-hmm. It's all, I can't go all in on it. But I do feel like you want to become, you would like put in those 10,000 hours, I guess.
Yeah. What are the odds of your success, the odds for your success increasing if you are just all in on one thing? All of your mental bandwidth isn't spread across 6, 7 things. It's all in on one thing. I bet your chances for success go through the roof.
But how are we defining success? Because what if my definition of success is just day-to-day happiness, and I feel happier day-to-day? I'm just like arguing with myself at this point.
Yeah.
What if I feel happier just getting up and doing all of these different things and getting all these new, because it's stimulation too. It's like all these new like stimuli that I'm trying to find, or I don't know what it is, dopamine or whatever the difference between those two are. So I think I'm maybe just trying to find like a newness or something, or like to be excited, and maybe that's where the paralysis comes.
I resonate with this so much, and that's the only reason that I'm going to say is because I feel like sometimes when I'm wanting to do a bunch of different things, more so than me wanting the dopamine and all the stimuli, which is what I'm telling myself, I'm actually just avoiding discipline. Because
Adley, don't come in here and be speaking truth to me.
only because
So
I do it
rude.
and I get called out for it. They're like, Adley, you're just not rolling the one thing you should be rolling up the hill. The one thing that you really say that you want. You're getting distracted by this and this and this and this because you like it and you're turned on by it and you want all these little things and all these little excitements.
Yeah.
But is there one thing in your life, like of all the 6 things, is there one that hits 5 of the 6 dopamine factors? Like for me, it would be making videos. There's a business component in it. There's a marketing component. There's the creative component. There's the writing component. There's the performing component. So it checked enough of them that I could stop selling phone cases and I could stop because I could roll that business drive into, okay, here's one bigger thing.
Yeah.
But that's kind of like writing, producing, acting. And that seems like it's all still in the same bucket. Right?
Okay. I like that.
Yeah. I feel like and I feel like with
Am I being enabled right now?
No.
Okay.
But it's breaking down the yearly, monthly, daily, weekly goals to where, what is the main thing? If I could only have one of these things, and would it be, say, directing, then which one is the easiest path to success? Like, where's the easiest point to break through? Because you can do everything, but not all at the same time.
Yeah.
And one usually leads to the others in that world, I feel like.
Yeah, I agree. And I also feel a little bit like in this day and age, it's almost like what's the easiest path to getting the most leverage?
Yeah.
And I think I don't know why I push back against that. I don't know why it's like, no, I want to make sure I get the leverage in the way that I want to get it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I think that's why it took me so long to make videos, because I was like, no, I'm like a serious actor and a serious writer, filmmaker, Paul Thomas Anderson, if you will. And I was like, but me doing these TikTok videos is it doesn't feel, here we go, congruent to what the ultimate goal is. But the ultimate goal is going to take so much leverage to get to. So what if I build this following on this platform that doesn't feel like the end goal? It feels like a means to an end. And I enjoy it sometimes.
Yeah.
Which I have, pros and cons. And I enjoy it. But it is the path of least resistance to the leverage.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I have such a hard time with.
And like college isn't the end goal, but it is means to an end of the end goal if you want to be a doctor or a lawyer or something like that. So it's always the part of doing what you don't want to do. But from a leverage perspective, the videos that you're making now are seen by millions of people versus you have a portfolio or just a single thing that you spent 3 years doing a single piece of work. Now everything's wrapped up in this. And maybe 4 or 5 influential people are going to see it. Where they may have you have more chances at bat by making social content to grow your leverage, So it's just taking that big skill that you have, and instead of it being one single project that all your eggs are in on, it's breaking it out into like 270 pieces that you're like, I'm this good full spectrum because I wrote and I directed, I produced, and it doesn't have to be one big thing that you spent $500,000 to do. It's free, and you can just turn on the camera and also make money at the same time. Yeah. And that was how I felt about music. It was this, why am I going to dump 10, 15 grand into this song that this one guy gets to tell me if it's good enough, and it's my turn to entertain now based on this one song that I'm finally getting to turn in. Oh my God. And instead of me just saying, my goal is to entertain people. So why don't I just turn on the camera and entertain people and actually get paid $10,000 to $15,000 for doing that in the process?
Totally. And have way more control over there's no gatekeepers, which is, it's been said a million times, but it really is the truth. Thank you so much for making this a therapy session about me. Appreciate that.
Me too.
I want to go back. Okay. So I want to go back to the music thing, and I want to hear about The Voice so much. Are you allowed to talk about? Are there like NDAs involved? Okay. I don't know how any of this stuff works. I'm not a lawyer. But I want to. You just said that the music industry. How do you feel? I know you're not in it like you were, but how do you feel about it being so catered to, but like so dependent on TikTok and virality and stuff like that? I'm just curious what your opinion is on it.
It does. It makes me sad for artists that
Okay.
are just like bleeding hearts, like martyrs, like you were saying, like they just want it. They're so like, you're not gonna have a Chris Stapleton doing TikTok dances for attention, right?
I
But the
would
world
love that.
needs to hear, right? It would be actually great, but the world needs to hear that. And so I hate that you have Chris Stapletons that could be like younger Chris Stapletons that could be reduced down to, well, what's your TikTok presence?
Yeah.
That's really sad. Then again, he doesn't have to be doing TikTok dances. It's your resume. It's your portfolio. So take a Chris Stapleton. There's no way somebody that's that talented doesn't find their audience on TikTok.
Yeah.
You know, it's just where the eyeballs are. So the eyeballs used to be in the gatekeepers and the decision makers that sat behind the desk and said, your turn now. Now it's flipped to where the market actually gets to decide.
Right.
You don't have to wait on the gatekeepers if you're good, and the market will tell you if you're good. So
Totally.
just do your thing however you feel the most natural, because then you're going to be the most resonant. And if you are good enough, that's the hard pill for people to swallow, is it's either going to work or not. And you're going to have to put yourself out there enough to the market, just like any other business. It's the music business, and being an artist is acting more like a business because you're just going to market faster and letting the market decide. But you have so many chances at bat. If your first 10 TikToks don't blow up, fine. Keep finding that lane and how you need to show up that's the most authentic to you, and that actually breaks through. And once you find it, just do more of that. Hammer that nail until it breaks.
It's also, I have such empathy for the artist, right? Like the artist who doesn't want to have to deal with the business side of it and blah, 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 blah. I do have empathy for that because it would be glorious if we could all just sit in a hole and make the art that we wanted to make, truly. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. And I also think you have to kind of go with the times, and there's so many. What was the, I'm going to look like such a fucking idiot. What was the presidential election where it was... This is the perfect.
I can already tell you, I don't know.
It was a presidential election, and I hope I'm not making this up. Where I want to say it was like Nixon and whoever Nixon was going against, and it was like before all of the debates had been on radio, so it was all based on sound. And then whatever, do you know what I'm talking about? Whatever, was it Reagan? I'm going to cut all this out and just voice over.
Yeah, can we get a concise soundbite? I think this is actually great. It's just crickets every 5 seconds.
It's just going to be me, like, with just saying the right president's name over the word Reagan. But it was, because it was all on radio, and then this Nixon, Reagan, potentially whoever it was on, maybe it was Kennedy, because Kennedy was so hot.
Do you want to Google it?
Yeah, maybe Caitlin's going to take. She's on it. I love you. But whatever it was, it went from radio, and now it was on television. And it was so funny because they did this thing where they would ask the people who heard it on the radio who they thought won the debate, and they asked people who watched it on television who won the debate. And I think it was Nixon on radio and Kennedy on TV, whatever. We'll fact check it in a second. Kennedy versus Nixon, right? Which makes sense because Kennedy's so attractive. Yeah. And Nixon, and apparently, and it's not Reagan. It's okay. We're gonna.
So Kennedy won on camera when you could see him.
They were saying Kennedy won on camera, even though Nixon, I think, was maybe more articulate. But their thing was like Nixon was like sweating and kind of like or whatever, just visually pleasing. And I was like, oh, what an interesting turn of, I don't know, the culture or the political landscape, because now you had to be worried about what you looked like, while I'm sure you always did, but in the middle of a debate you had to be worried about your composure and what you look like and sweat. Like I feel like it's a dumb fucking example, but I feel like there are all these different instances of different jobs, different cultures, whatever, kind of changing with the time, changing with the technology, changing with whatever. And I feel like this is another thing where it's like, it sucks. You should be able to write an incredible song. You should be able to write Tennessee whiskey and not have to worry about it going viral on TikTok. I 100% agree with that.
I agree.
But
my butt or your butt?
No, you give me your butt. Give me your butt, baby.
There's always been this. There was always it's not fair. We shouldn't have to put ourselves out in this way. It's not fair. I shouldn't have to let this label head decide if I have a career or not. There's always been gatekeepers.
Yeah.
Now, I think it is the best that it's actually ever been, because before it was like, I just got to fly halfway across the country and get my thing to the desk of this one person. And that's not fair. And people would bitch about that, you know? But what's more fair is actually seeing how it would perform in the market. And if you're good, it will cut through. You get to see if you're good fast enough instead of having to like kiss ass for one guy. Yeah. Because that caused a bunch of problems too. When you just had gatekeepers and that was your only way to break through as an artist.
Too much power.
You know? There's too much power. So now the power balance has shifted, which there's plenty of reasons to still bitch about it. But I think I would pick where we're at now over, especially as women, what we would have had to do 15, 20 years ago.
I don't know, man. Sometimes I'm like, I would rather just give an old man a blowjob.
I knew that.
Just like let me in there, let me work. My mother gave me, and just get ahead that way. God, it would be so much easier. And now I can't because like feminism or whatever. But it's I do think about that all the time. Anyways, we can.
That is so funny.
Not really. Okay.
I don't know. As that was coming out of my mouth, I'm like, Courtney would have been there. But Courtney wishes it was 20 years ago. She would have thrived.
Listen, so many great things about today's day and age, but there's my blowjob skills don't get me anywhere now, and that's why I'm salty. That's my complaint. Okay. Anyways. So we got the future, and I want to go back because I'm so curious. We're obviously friends, right?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, great.
I feel happy.
And I've seen you naked. You've seen me naked. I feel like that's the
You've
prerequisite.
seen me naked?
I've seen you halvesies.
Halfsies? Really?
Yeah. We put on. Yeah. You don't remember. This was like such a great moment
in my
for
closet?
Me. Yes.
Oh, I thought I was the bashful one. I didn't know I did it. It must have been peer pressure.
There was like 6 of us.
Yeah.
And we were all halvesies. It was a real bonding moment for me, at least. Apparently someone else doesn't remember it. That's fine. I won't take it personally. But I know that you were on The Voice, and I know like the soundbite version of your past, but I'm so curious what I want to go back. What was the first dive into music for you at all? I'm sure you've told the story a million times, but I want to hear it.
Too Many Miller Lights.
Okay.
On a Wednesday night.
Okay.
In Stillwater, Oklahoma.
Okay.
Where there's not a lot to do in Stillwater, Oklahoma. I was in college and I was just always the performer, cheerleader for 15 years, and like started playing guitar when I was 10. Hadn't gotten any better since I was 11, but just like loved music and loved messing around with it. And so I'd jump up and do karaoke. And because I was a cheerleader, I was just like yelling. Like I had power and I was like, people like that. So I was just yelling all the time. No subtlety.
Incredible.
And so my sorority sisters dared me to audition for this karaoke show, The Voice. So I drove.
Was it the first season you didn't know what it was? Or you
yes,
just didn't know
and
what it
I
was?
get blurry here. I think it was the first season, and then I don't know if I didn't make it or couldn't go or something because I had finals. Okay. But I ended up being on, I think it was auditioned for season 2, and thank God it was because that was the season that like took off. It wasn't really on the map season 1, but season 2,
interesting.
It beat out like Modern Family for the Emmys and stuff like that. It like was on the map.
Oh, that makes. Oh my God! Speaking of context, how funny is that?
Yes,
like
right?
the TV show that got popular, that was on, what, before or after? Is that what it would have been?
I don't know. It was on NBC.
Okay, interesting. Anyways, keep going. So season 2.
Season 2, and I drove so I went to audition. And I drove through the night chugging energy drinks for an 8 a.m. call time. And because I didn't give a shit. Like I was like, I'm going to PR school and I'm going to work in a cubicle somewhere and speaking and encouraging and inspiring people for this nonprofit. That's what I was going to do.
So this is like a blip on the road. This is a fun little whatever.
This is you're a senior in college and like make memories.
Oh, I love that.
Being boyfriend at the time, just drove through and auditioned, and I just like kept going through the casting process, and I was like, this is hilarious. And I genuinely think it was not because of my voice. It was because of I didn't care so much. Where everyone else was like crying, shaking, like I've wanted to sing since I was 2, and everybody's good, but it's casting. And I was the cheerleading sorority girl who didn't know she could sing, and I had big beehive hair, and I just didn't care so much. Yeah. And I was ballsy enough to sing a Christina Aguilera song while she was a judge. And I blended it with Johnny Cash. And
wait, this is badass.
So it was just weird because I didn't feel like I had anything to lose. You know, it wasn't my goal. And when you have what have I got to lose attitude, like an F it attitude, it's just attractive. It just exudes confidence, whether you have it or not. You just don't care so much. And that is a sort of a resonant thing.
Wait, so you think that came from the fact that you were like, this is not going to be a career for me. This is totally just a blip. Like it's going to be.
It's a joke. It was a dare.
That is so funny.
Yeah.
And so interesting. I auditioned for American Idol when I was like 17. I don't know if you know this. I also sang Christina Aguilera thing. I'm sure not nearly as good. There was no Johnny Cash flair to it. It was just me yelling at 3 white men. But I remember there's so many people there, and I'm sure you've told a million stories about the difference between what people see on television and just the absolute shit show that is like the culling process. To get to what you see on TV. Mm-hmm. So funny. But there is like a desperation to the air when you're in that kind of environment.
And you want something so bad. Even today, when I really, really want something, I have to remind myself, I have to pretend like I don't want it. I don't want this. Sure. I don't care. Because if I want it so bad, whether you're selling or whatever you're doing, like you can tell when somebody really wants something. And you might be nervous either way, but I have to just trick my brain into being like, I don't care. I don't want it.
Wait, do you have like a little trick that you, or is it all different, dependent?
I think it's all different.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it's all different depending on what it is. But I think overall it's just confidence. And I think where you get that confidence is I genuinely feel like I'm the luckiest person in the world. And I felt that way when I was bankrupt.
That's beautiful.
So I think it's a mindset thing. And if I already know that I'm going to win and that whatever I set my mind out to do, that I'm going to have it is mine, it's just a matter of time, then any little setback doesn't hurt so much. If I'm already owning it and I already know what I'm going to do is going to work, I don't know if it's going to work V1. Sure. I don't know if it's going to be in 6 months from now or in 6 years from now, but I know it's going to work because I won't give up and I won't let it fail. And so my goal is to fail faster, as we all know, fail faster. And the failure isn't permanent. It's just going to teach me something and make me better faster.
Okay, but what about the whole patience part of it? I want to go back to the voice too, but real quick, the patience point of it, how do we make ourselves have that patience though? That's what I think I struggle with, because it's like I get bogged down in the I don't know how long I'm gonna make it in this world, so whether it takes 6 months or 6 years, I'm like, no, it needs to take 6 months. In 6 years, I will look like absolute dog shit. I need it to be in 6 months.
Happen now.
Yes. How do you have like a macro or zoomed out thing that you're able to look at, or like what's your?
I think no, because I feel like that's what hurts when the success is this dangling carrot out in the distance. Like all my music friends were like, I know will have made it when I stand on the Grammy stage someday and I accept this award in front of all my peers. Like that is success to me. They had a defining point. Well, odds are if you get that exact moment, it's not going to feel like you are imagining it to feel anyways, and the path is going to be zigzaggy. So if all of your happiness and patience is all building up to one big moment, I think you're going to be really disappointed. So rather, I'd say it's what you said earlier. Are you enjoying the day-to-day life? So if you never get that dangling carrot in the distance, because it's going to look different anyway, if you never get that, did you enjoy your time? And then patience doesn't matter so much because you're having a ball the whole way through.
That's true.
Man,
look at me giving out great advice and then you reminding me that I get
how smart you are. It's true, because you're already doing it. Like there is patience for some things, some very specific thing that you may want, like what we're launching, this remote training. I have a lot of weights and I'm so focused on that, but I'm still having a damn good time doing what we're doing now. And so I'm working towards a goal always. But I think that's also the key in patience, is making sure that your work ethic matches the size of your goals. Like, is my discipline aligned? Is my discipline and my behavior in alignment with the size of the goal? Because otherwise I'm not going to get it, 1. And 2, I'm not even working towards it. And I do think there's power in you working towards something. And it may not be that one thing that you get, but when enough people see you hustling in a direction, that does create momentum inside you, and that others can see that you're going to hit on something.
Yep.
Just by aiming at what you're wanting.
Yeah.
Something's going to happen.
Yeah, I call that the spaghetti at the wall. I feel like literally anyone who's asked me how I'm doing or what I'm doing in the past 3 years has gotten the response, throwing spaghetti at the wall, because I really do. It's like I'm annoying myself at this point saying it, but I do feel like that's what I'm doing as well. Just like whatever creates momentum too, whatever gets you out of bed in the morning. Because sometimes I feel like that's the hardest part. Is just start momentum there. Just crawl the fuck out of bed.
Yeah, and check that box as a win. Because somebody said this, and it might have been a Mel Robbins thing. They were like, okay, the biggest key to momentum and success and all that, like, is confidence. And people are like, well, I'm so not confident. Like, I'm feeling really insecure, actually. So how do you get confidence? And it's by the smallest wins. Say you're going to make your bed every day. Say, I'm going to do these 3 things every day. And then do those 3 things. Like, make sure that you do them. But then you feel pretty good. All right, tomorrow you're going to do these things. Make sure if you do nothing else, you do those things. Right. Even if it's making your bed or like putting Crest White strips on or like putting pants on. Whatever it is.
Masturbate. Check. Every day. I'm so proud of myself.
Do that. Then yes, you're like, I'm confident. It does. I feel great. I feel amazing. Yeah. And if you make those commitments to yourself and you actually keep them over time, you're going to just get bigger and bigger commitments. And then I think your confidence just grows because you know that you can trust yourself.
Yeah, and you're working that muscle of accomplishing tasks, which feels like a muscle.
And it's discipline.
Discipline, 100%.
Because you know that thing, it's water always settles back to where it comes from. So like you could take all the money in the world and disseminate it and like say all the rich people, all the wealth, we're just going to take it and we're going to spread it out and everybody's going to have the same amount of money. Give it 10 years, the money's right back in the hands of those that it started with.
Fascinating.
You know, because you're not going to... I don't think you're going to out earn what you're able to handle. Like you're only going to have the amount of money or the amount of success or the amount of fame that you can handle. And that's when people aren't ready for it. That's when they lose it. Right. So I would rather grow slower and incrementally building the rungs of the ladder than go from here to the top of the ladder. And then when it shakes, you have no stability. You built no foundation, right? You don't have all these skills that are needed to stabilize you a little bit when you get to where you're going. So I know if I made $100 million right now, I am not personally developed enough to know how to handle that. You know, so
I'll help you. You give it to me, Adley. I'll teach you.
I bet you will. You know, we could do it together. But what I have right now, I think we're managing well, right? And so then if I'm a good steward of what I'm being given, even like during bankruptcy, I had to develop those skills. Okay, I'm going to manage so well what I have right now. And it was a broken down car. And I was living in a basement. But I was like, I'm going to manage this well. And then I'll be given more. And it's biblical too, you know? Like just if you manage what you have, even as little as it is, then in time it will grow because you can be trusted with more. That's why if you just give somebody something they're not ready for it, whether it's money or a career or a relationship, they're going to lose it. They weren't ready.
That's so true. The water analogy is good. All of this from a woman from Stillwater. But I'll add a little bump thing.
Stillwater will glow.
Like a round of applause from the audience.
I'll learn something in that red dirt.
Yeah, there you go. You have an incredible outlook on money. Do you feel like where do you feel like that came from? Do you feel like your parents had that? Do you feel like you acquired that? Was it like hammered down into your brain? Like how did you get such a good grasp on? I feel like you handle money really well, or at least your idea of. I feel like you don't have the same setbacks that I have about money.
Because of how you were raised?
I blame it on how I was raised. I'm sure that's a factor. It's something that I want to stop blaming and start addressing. But I'm just curious where it came from for you. Was it from being raised or was it something that you learned?
I think it's a little bit of everything. So we did have money growing up, not a lot, but enough to where I wasn't financially insecure. I didn't feel that necessarily.
Would you say like middle class or were you guys like high roll?
No, middle.
Okay.
I'd say middle, maybe upper middle. I guess for our friendship group and era, I was in the middle.
You felt like you were in Stillwater, like
I was in Tulsa, but went to school in Stillwater. But like it was a private Catholic school, you know, and so there were people with way more. But I was never I wasn't hurting, so I never felt that fear and need to hold on so much. And family taught me the value of work ethic. But my mom, she was a school teacher, made $28,000 a year, and worked her butt off, but she had friends that were just like accomplishing the world. And so I always saw people doing big things. And I think that gave me or demonstrated vision to see past my circumstances. I knew that this isn't my lot forever, and that who I am and what I have right now, it doesn't have to be permanent, that I can grow and I can develop and I could move to Italy or I could go do these things because I saw that represented. So I think when you're not super, super insecure and you just have the ability to see my life can look different. I'm not stuck in this box that I think that I am.
Yeah.
Then you can take a little bit more risk. And then I read a lot of books on it too, because I was like, I want this. I want financial freedom. And if that is a goal of mine, then I know that how do I get that? How do I build that? So then I think the beautiful thing about books and podcasts and social media, in a sense, depending on your feed, is you have all of these virtual mentors. You can get all of this information to change your inputs, because we really are just sums of our inputs. You know, like if you hang around 5 idiots, it's likely that you're going to be the 6th. You hang around 5 alcoholics, it's likely that you're going to be the 6th. You hang around 5 millionaires, it's likely that you are going to be the 6th. So now if you have a shit family or a shit friend group, control your inputs as much as you can. Ingest good books, ingest good podcasts, and just let people speak life into you for where you want to be. And that can help you change your outcome. You know? I
love that. I also think because this podcast, I'm trying to make it about female friendships. I don't even know if I told you that. But yeah, I feel like I've struggled with that a little bit for a whole host of reasons. But I feel like I'm now getting to a point where I'm like, oh, I think I know how to cultivate the good friends that I have around me. And I feel like I know how to pick people to be around so much better. And it's overcoming all these different hurdles. But what's interesting is that I don't feel like I have a lot of old friends. And that makes me a little sad. Do you have any friends? Do you have friends from like middle school or high school or like
I
youth?
Do, but they're not like this close. They're not, it's like we're friends because of, yes, we're friends. I'm friends with them more so because of history.
Okay. Yeah.
And, but who I am now, our lives just look very, very, very different. With the limited amount of time that we have to bond or spend with other people outside of being independent business owners, as we both are, then you got to make sure that time is well spent, and I want to pour into other people and I want people to pour into me. And so not to say not to say female friendships have to be this transactional thing, but I do think it happens naturally. I feel like ambition finds ambition. I feel like people who pity themselves surround themselves with other people who pity themselves,
or people who pity you. Have you ever noticed this too? I feel like I'll use I terms, therapy. I feel like I used to, and I'm working on it, surround myself with people who thought the same as I did in a certain extent, even going all the way back to like high school and before. Like if I thought I was a complete sack of shit, I tended to surround myself with people who also kind of, I think subconsciously were like, I think you might be a sack of shit. And do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I thought you were saying if you felt like you were a sack of shit, you surrounded yourself with people beneath you to make you feel better.
Maybe there's a little bit of that too. And it's not like that black and white where I can point to it and be like, yes, this happened. But I'll look back on old friendships and I was like, why was I friends with that person? And why did it not serve me? And I think it's because, I was so insecure about this thing. And they also helped me feel insecure about this thing. Yeah. Like kind of validating my own identity at that point in time. It's a really interesting thing, but you feel like that's not the case with you.
No, I feel like, well, maybe I'm sure I did that too. I'm sure everybody goes through that. And I'm glad that that's in the past. And I would encourage anybody to, if you recognize that behavior, put that in the past because it's not serving you, to be around the people that are just validating the bad parts in you. Like when I'm around you, I think you're the funniest damn person that I know. So I like being around you because I'm like, Courtney is a star. Courtney is the funniest person. Courtney makes everything better when she's around. Like you need to be around friends that see the best in you and remind you who the hell you are, And so it makes me sad when people go and surround themselves with people that just remind them of the worst qualities. Like imagine if you were just always pointing out the worst things in me and I'm like, yeah, thanks for validating that. Yeah. And I wonder where that comes from.
For me, I don't know. I asked my therapist. I'm sure she have a great answer. I think maybe a little bit of it. a little bit of it is just like validating. I grew up, opposite experience, not opposite, but different experience where I grew up and I was like pretty poor. I grew up in a decently nice area and like this school and stuff that I went to. And I was definitely part of the lower echelon of socioeconomic status. And I think I identify as two things. I identify a little bit as a piece of shit, like a little bit sometimes in a
This is hard for me to hear you say.
I'm so sorry. I don't mean to hurt you.
Yeah, finish. I'll deal with you later.
Okay. Thank you so much. Not a piece of shit in that I'm not worth anything. It's more like I grew up in like a trailer. So like it's like, oh, my stuff is dirty. My clothes are old. I would shop at Gabe's I would get my Abercrombie and Fitch t-shirts at Gabriel Brothers, which is a knockoff like surplus. I think it still exists. I don't even know. Anyways, but I would get like the knockoff stained version of the same shirt that other people were wearing. So it was like that kind of subconscious idea that, oh, I get the knockoffs. Yeah. I get the dirty stuff. Yeah. And so not that I wasn't a good person or anything. It was just like that's where I fit in this hierarchy of life in my brain. And then also identifying as like an underdog, right? Which I think can be really fueling. But if you identify as an underdog I think sometimes you find ways to keep yourself down so that you can keep identifying as that.
Totally.
And that's not good.
No, it's not.
That's not good.
It's hard. It's a hard cycle to break. I think those who break it though, that come from that underdog position and are able to break it are way stronger than the rest of us though.
Oh, well, that's inspiring.
If you can break it. So I think that again comes back to just controlling your inputs and rewiring your brain to believe the better things about yourself than what you were raised in that was just like put upon you.
This is turning into another therapy session for me, Adley. No, I love it. I just feel like if anyone's listening to this, they're like, Courtney, shut the fuck up. You pay someone to do this. Poor Adley is here on her own time.
No, I love it because this is what, all female friendships look different. This is what most of my conversations look like.
Yeah. No, but isn't that so, it's so funny because I have friends that I became friends with them in a stage in my life where I wanted this. I wanted like deep, meaningful conversations with women. It's so fucking fulfilling. It's what I've always wanted. But I think when I was younger, I like didn't think I was allowed to have it or didn't surround myself with people who were also able to have that. So I would just get drunk. I would get drunk or I would take drugs, the drug being like uppers. And I would just like dance around and fist bump and whatever in order to fist bump. Just going around.
That checks out.
And then you punch it up. It's a combo. But yeah, I think that's what I've always wanted. And so I struggle a little bit. I do have amazing friends from younger periods of my life that I'm still able to be friends with and have conversations. But it is interesting because we forged those relationships under very different circumstances of not like avoiding those conversations. Yeah. And so sometimes, when I have friends visit or I go visit friends or whatever it may be, it's like I'm not getting that high that I want to get with friends because I feel like we're still figuring out how to be new versions of friends for each other.
In that container that you're holding for them. Like you think of Becky like this. And then if Becky is not this anymore, you're like, how do we tango? How do we get along? Do we have stuff in common anymore? Or are we just kind of both resorting back to this old version of ourselves that we know how to coexist with?
Yes. And there's also the fear of, I think there's a little bit of, I have a little bit of shame for the version of myself that I used to be. No. Because the version of myself that I used to be was very insecure. And so I don't feel like it was the best version, which we all fucking sucked. Like no one was born incredible. Except for maybe, I don't know,
Ryan Reynolds.
Dolly Parton. And God, it's always Ryan. But yeah, I think there's a little bit of shame in just the person that I used to be, right? So I think there's the fear of friends who befriended me during that time thinking of me in that way or me reverting back to the insecure little wounded animal
Yeah.
that I feel like I was during that time of my life.
And if you're trying to break through that and not be that anymore, it's probably hard to surround yourself with that because you're either playing that role
Yeah.
or that's still how they think of you, which is you're back in that limiting box again.
Yep.
And so if you're in this phase of life trying to break what was put upon you for so long and what you continue to put upon yourself, it's probably not healthy to be back in those relationships until you've fully broken it and you have full confidence in who you are now.
Totally.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I'm working on it.
We're all working on it.
We're all working on it. I do want to go back to The Voice, but I want to tie it into what we're talking about because I want to hear about the experience in general.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what's the most fascinating to me, if I'm being selfish, is that's got to be because how far did you get?
Not far. There's all these new rounds now, but it was just like blind auditions, battle rounds, lives, and then like maybe 4 rounds of lives, maybe. I don't really remember. But battle rounds, I battled Raylan. Who's here in Nash, and then I lost to her. And I knew I was losing to her before we even opened our mouths. Because reality show.
Oh,
you know?
did it was kind of like played out, like, or like that's scripted, but
I could just feel it, and they didn't tell us.
Oh,
but
okay.
you just know. Like you can just tell. Like the way that she was propped up, I was sure she was going to go top 10. Like everybody kind of knew that. And then they paired both of us together as the country people from Nashville, or that were living in Nashville at the time. And she was a way more seasoned artist than I was. But it was a good thing. I do think it was a blessing because I would have gone out very shortly after that because I had no business being there. And I would have gone out naturally. But it ended up being headlines, front page of Yahoo, all this, because I did good in that battle round, according to the newspapers. It was like shocking elimination on The Voice. So it was a big deal. That I got kicked off just because I think she messed up a little bit. And so people thought that there was a clear winner. And then it wasn't. So because it came across as sort of an upset, I actually was everywhere. And then it was great. The morning after the morning after the battle rounds, I had these headbands on and this beehive hair. Okay. So
I've seen photos.
Very noticeable.
Incredible. I love it so much. I really do.
It was an era. Bees would actually swarm my head.
Shut
and that is
up.
not a lie. They would.
Shut
They
up.
would. Only a couple times, but it was damn funny.
You know what I love about that? So I would have never had the balls to like not try to fit into whatever the like zeitgeisty cool hair. Like I would have never, because you were what, in your 20s?
Yeah, 22. 23.
I would have never been like, I'm gonna do whatever the fuck I want to do. Do you know what I'm saying?
I mean, I did tell the hairstylist, make me look pretty. So they just put extensions in me and I was like, great. And I looked like freaking George Washington. Please do a side by side. I looked like George Washington and I was like, well, this was a mistake.
Amazing.
The whole thing, my looks were like, did someone get a hold of her? Or why didn't no one try to help this thing? But I was at the gym the morning after. And you know when you can just tell people are talking about you? We're all standing in line waiting to go into Zumba.
Yeah,
and
course.
I just feel it, that people are looking at me. And I lean over and these 2 girls are looking at me and I'm like, hi. And they go, sorry, you look just like that girl off The Voice with the, and I'm like, oh. And before I could say, I am, they go, but you probably just wear your hair like that because you saw her do it.
Shut up.
And I was like, this is great.
My ego would have been through the roof. I would have been like, I'm never coming down from this. I would have felt so good.
I did feel really good because I was like,
Yeah.
man, what is an insecurity to me felt like was cool to them.
Yeah.
You know, me not knowing how to do my hair. So just putting it up in like a ponytail with a bandana over my forehead because I have a giant forehead, which is still why I wear hats because I don't know how to do my hair. So I just do this part and put a hat on. Like
Who
that's
told you have a giant forehead?
everybody. Blake said it this morning.
What?
He goes, this is literally what Blake did this morning. We're laying there and he goes, your hairline should be here, but it's back here. And then I did the same thing for him and we were just like messing around. But now
That's so funny.
it's just a big forehead. You know, can't do anything about it. But I'm also not as embarrassed by it. But I love what was such a huge insecurity for me so long. So I wore bandanas and I wore hats, now has turned into something that is well known about me.
Your identifier.
And it's a good thing. And I think God's cool like that. And I think we can use our insecurities in a different light. If we don't view them as insecurities, we view them as superpowers.
Yeah.
Then they can't be. But we have to make the decision.
Of course. Well, I guess that's kind of what I was saying. Like, I know intellectually, or I knew this when I was younger. I feel like I'm getting better about it. I know that in order to put your mark on this world, like I feel like it's so damn bogged down by legacy, blah, blah, blah. But I do, like, in order to stand out in the world, in order to whatever, you do have to have your own sort of independence. You have to have your own identity. You have to have that. And you can't have that if you're literally doing what everybody else is doing. But I would be so insecure that I'd be like, I have to wear what everyone's wearing. I have to do, and then you would never be able to form, I'll never be able to reach that goal with that insecurity. So I don't know. I just think that's a cool lesson for you to have learned in that way. And I think it's something we can all take home with us.
Well, it's nice when you can have that retrospect of like, man, this thing that was insecure and people made fun of me for so long, to have it just have a little conversation, which was, again, someone saying it to me, but it just clicked as something that could be positive because I was on a show and then it was an identifier and they thought it was cool. Whether they didn't even say it was cool. They were just like, you probably wear your hair like that because she does.
That's cool enough for me.
Whether it was cool or a bad thing, I don't know. No. But in my mind, it was like, okay, I'm going to keep doing this because it is an identifier. And so that was a blessing to me. But people don't have to wait for a moment like that. Like, it's just a matter of deciding. They were still probably talking crap about me. But I was something that I was able to say, okay, I'm going to take this weakness of mine and this pain that I have and use it not as a fortress, but as fuel. Yeah. I'm going to let it fuel me. And that's a decision anybody can make. And I think you can have the head knowledge. Like, we all have this head knowledge of the podcast and the self-help stuff. Sure. And we can say it to ourselves all the time, but practicing it and letting our body feel the difference and our mind feel the difference. And that just takes time. It's like practice. It's yoga. You just have to keep doing it to get good at it, I think.
Do you think that there's anything else that because The Voice is anything like that, is such a specific, unique, I would argue, like, it's an experience that human beings aren't really supposed to experience. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think that we're built to like the fame aspect of it. Like, I don't know that we're necessarily built to like have notoriety and fame in that way. I think it's something that people struggle with and things we have to overcome. Is there anything else besides leaning into, like, what was the difference between the version that started doing The Voice and the version that came out of The Voice? Like, do you think that there was anything different in those two people?
That's a great question.
I'll be here all day.
So going into The Voice, I thought I was going to work in a cubicle and work at a nonprofit. And I wanted to speak and encourage and inspire people with a nonprofit that was To Write Love on Our Arms. They help people find help that are struggling with depression, addiction, self-injury, and suicide. So I thought that was my life, was to go serve those people and to inspire that community of people that were struggling. And then I take this dare and then I go on this TV show, then I make it on this TV show. And then, your life has changed. It just hasn't aired yet, but your life is going to change and that you signed this record deal and all this and you can't say it. So I was at the gym and I was on the abs mat and I was just praying and I was like, God, I feel like you got the wrong girl. Like, I was going to go work in a cubicle and speak and encourage and inspire people. And now I'm a singer on this huge show in Nashville with a record deal. And I don't know how to sing, you know? God. And I felt like the most audible that you could ever imagine hearing God. Like, I heard it deep in my soul. It was like, and he kind of smacked me on the head when he did it too. He was like, I just gave you a stage and a microphone. What do you think you're supposed to do? Go speak. Go encourage, go inspire people. I just gave you a way bigger platform than you were going to give yourself. So, I just heard that and I was like, okay, I will thank you for this and I will earn everything else. I will earn all of it. And that's the deal we made that day. And then, so that's my drive, or my why, is I recognize that I'm so privileged to have grown up in a good family. Dad died of alcoholism. That was really contentious for a while, but it built me. And then I went to college and I had a break like that. I had opportunity. And then, I had that. And who the hell would I be if I wasted all of it? And I didn't maximize every opportunity that I had. And every day that I wake up, if I'm not being a river. Like every good thing that comes to me, sometimes human nature is to like hold on to it and just be a reservoir and act out of scarcity, like we're never going to have it again. But that's the pattern that I'm trying to break, is just be a river, not a reservoir. Keep passing it through every good thing that you have. And I feel like that's what God wants me to do, is just keep passing it through, and then be trusted with a little, and then maybe he'll keep expanding it.
Man, that's so beautiful. I'm crying.
Oh.
I'm crying. I'm coming. I'm doing all of it. It's so.
Do you want a towel?
Oh no, I have very, very thick pants. She'll be fine. Before we wrap up, first of all, I just love talking to you. I feel light, and I feel grounded, and I feel, I don't know. There's just something about you that's very uplifting, but I don't feel talked to. I feel talked with, which is really nice. Good. I don't know if you can receive that, but I'm giving it to you anyways. Okay, great.
It's easy with you, as we're just loving on each other. But that is what female friendships do. Let me love on you, okay? You need practice.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
But it's easy with you because, like, you just, one, draw it out of people. Two, you're magnetic. There's no one who knows you that doesn't love you. So you bring this out in people. I don't think it's something that I have naturally. I think it's something that I have with you.
Okay, that's the nicest thing anyone's ever said. Let's just cut it there. No, I want to talk about the thing that you're doing, the course. This is so cool because you are so good at what you do, and we just heard the whole backstory as to why you're such a fantastic brain. And I want to hear, because you're going to be helping other people essentially have, or try to have, the success that you've had, which I think is.
I hope some people.
So cool.
So we're doing remote training. So for the last 3 years, we make viral videos as a job. And it is not trying to be influencers. It's none of that. It is, we just make videos go viral at scale, at an average about 1 billion views a month. And that's just with a smaller group of us, right? And so, but the training for that is exhausting. Like, it's me one-on-one or me 1-on-3. And I don't think I'm the best teacher, but we have this knowledge base that is, it's a template. You can apply this template to any niche and any style of content, and it will go viral if you literally just follow this template. We took my husband, who's an engineer by trade and had no social media, never made a video before in his life. And it was a challenge for him to grow 1 million followers on TikTok using only the formula. He could not speak a word, and he had to pick a niche, like a small niche, like DIY, and see how fast he could grow 1 million followers. It took him 29 videos.
That's insane.
Using the formula.
That's actually insane, because this is so good. Okay. And I've seen it. And I think Blake's wonderful. But Blake definitely is not someone who is, like, I wouldn't be like, I feel like his personality type isn't someone that's like, yes, go be on camera and make viral videos. Right? Isn't that? Yeah. So I think that's even more power to the program and the whatever you guys are doing. Yeah.
And that's the goal. When we can see, okay, it's changed not only my life, but it's changed my family's life. It's changed my friend's life. And anybody that we teach that applies it and sticks with it has not seen success. Yeah. So how do we be a river and, just pass this through? So we've trying to, it's been the hardest thing to take all of this knowledge because it's a little bit variable, because you're going to film ring camera footage different than you're going to film a prank, differently than you're going to film a cooking video. But try to distill the major themes of this formula down into a course that somebody can start here, having never made a video before in their life. And by the time that they finish this course, and by the time
this course,
but the goal is to take somebody who's never made a video before in their life, have them start here day one, and by the time they finish this course, they're going to have all the same head knowledge for the most part that we do. Now you get good by practicing, by getting your reps in and filming your little hiney off and failing fast, because everybody's going to suck at the beginning.
True.
But and I hope we find 2% maybe we'll finish it, we'll take it seriously and become rock stars. And then those are the people that we want to work with, because we're always looking for more creators to fulfill the amount of pages that we have, 200 something pages that we're looking for content for. We can only make so much. So if you want to train, if you want to make viral videos as a job, check it out and be diligent with it. But all the information is there. The community's there, because we want Viralish to continue to grow. It's been so covert for 3 years. And I'm just tired of training, and I want to grow a thing.
Well, how do people sign up for it or do it?
Viralish.com.
Viralish.com. You heard it here.
Viralish.com.
Viralish.com. The sexy. This is why I didn't do headphones, because I knew, I was like, if we do headphones, I'm gonna go straight into like my sexy voice. I was like, that's
We should have done headphones.
No,
That's
no,
what
no,
that
no.
tells me.
I would have been in my head like, okay, Adley, tell me more about you. It would have been so bad. Is there anything else that you want to say, or?
No,
I don't
I've
know
had
how to
so
end it.
much fun. There's no better way that I would want to spend a Saturday than doing this with friends, than being creative with friends.
I agree.
You know?
That's why I'm doing it. I'm like,
I love it.
I don't even care how this does. This is so fulfilling to me. This is what I want to do with my all day, every day. So it's,
Yes.
Thank you for being
Yeah,
a part of it. Plop, plop. That was what
That
I
was
do
my
to women's. I have that effect on women's bodies. Thank you so much for doing this. I love you. You're wonderful. This was better than I thought it would be. And I guess that's it.
Can I be your guest every time?
Every single time. This is now just our podcast.
Great.